Thank you very much, Rowan. We're now on to the last speech of the day, and I'm really delighted to say that we've got Michael Schwarze-Rodrian going to talk to us. He's going to give us a closing keynote address. Michael is the head of the Department of European and Regional Networks, and he's a landscape planner who planned and implemented the Emscher Landscape Park in Germany. So he brings to us today a sort of huge knowledge of how to deal with large and complex regeneration. So I'm looking forward very much to hearing what he has to say. Michael.
Thank you for this nice announcing. It was a great pleasure to get this invitation and to come back to this building. I was here in 2004, the first time, visiting Manchester and discovering this museum, and I was so fascinated with the kind of things that you show in the museum that I thought, I'll come and I'll bring my camera with me again. When I was walking through the city 13 years ago, I was impressed by the heritage, not only in the sense of the single building, but the whole structure of the city, this combination of old infrastructures, railroads, bridges, constructions, water, locks, and I also was impressed how you started to deal pedestrian bridges in this surrounding. So when I came back to the Ruhr in 2004, I told my colleagues, you have to go to Manchester to see this complex of yesterday and tomorrow. And the latest visit to Manchester was in 2013, and I was looking back to city centre, and I was fascinated with this detail of design and of making and bringing back water into your pedestrian zone. So the water that's coming out of that fountain goes through that. I was asked to speak about everything of the Emscher Park project, and I can only give you an overview. There's not much more time, but I'm trying to give you this overview. You don't have to be familiar with the story of the Ruhr, so I try to bring you closer to that. It's part of Europe. It's part of Germany. It is part of our regional state of North Rhine-Westphalia. By the way, Germany is different than Britain. Our federal government is not able to cut down our budgets in the town, but this is a different story. So we have regional states and we have local authorities. And in the Ruhr, we have a historic situation that all these cities grew together with the industrial heritage, with the industrial history. And it has never been one dominating city. It's neighbor cities that grew all by the industry in the last 150, 180 years. 3 rivers, the River Ruhr in the south, who gave the region the name, the Emscher, the Lippe, all going from east to west to the Farther Rhine. These single cities are managed, ruled by single authorities. They all have a Lord Mayor, an important mayor, etc. They have town halls, etc. So to think about development, to think about integrative development, sustainable development, etc., it means to cooperate with partners or to create a kind of partnership between several cities. Altogether, there are 53 cities, 4 districts, and we count 5 million people who are living in the Ruhr. All these cities went through the same story, through the same experience in the sense of a decline from heavy industries. So we have gone through the same problems, and this makes people's mind, that opens people's mind to look for new ways, for new solutions. The structural change is done. You can see 1985 when this blue line and the red line is the second sector, the blue line is the third sector, when these kind of jobs, kind of businesses was crossed and the decline of heavy industry is gone. You can have a lot of different statistics to show you that we've managed the structural change from a dominated coal and steel industry area to much more diverse economy of today. The change is not only something that is be done physically with buildings, with surroundings, with heritage, it's also something with knowledge, with universities, with culture, with environmental thing, with social, etc. So the structural change is a group of tasks, and this means it's a group of different skills. You have to convince, or you have to reach, or somebody has to move from different situations to qualify and to develop this region. It's not only the cooperation of the mayors, it's also the cooperation of the people that is necessary to make it happen, and even with a humoristic way. Okay, something is missing. It started in the 1950s when the decline of heavy industry started, and we thought about regenerating, and we discovered it's not regenerating. It is something to develop for the future. Klaus Töpfer, who was in charge with the UNEP, the United Nations Environmental Program, summarized why it is relevant perhaps to look on the Ruhr, and what he brought out is that, I'm sorry that it's not on the shape, that change happens, that is based on the reuse of buildings, that is based on the change of economy, and it's based on the cooperation of the cities. No, my charts are not working. The really important thing may be these two colors. Whether you're going with Schalke in Gelsenkirchen, one of our football clubs, or you're going with Dortmund. So beside all professional respect, we know that people love football very much in the Ruhr. When we started, and this is starting in the 1980s, we had to face complicated questions. Is it right that we are continuing to demolish all the old stuff? Do we have the right instruments? Do we have the right feeling and tools? And what is the result that we get if we have a box of scrap metal? And what is the attractivity of a vacant land? And who wants to know that we had 5,000 hectare brownfields at the same time? The owner doesn't want to know it, the private sector doesn't want to know it, the banks don't want to know it, the politicians don't, because it just tells you nothing goes and it's not very attractive. So our rethinking, the strategical rethinking of the situation was we could see the structural change, we could see the decline as a great chance for a new urban development, for a new economic development, for a new cultural development. And this is definitely the change of end of 1980s, beginning of the 1990s in the structural and strategic discussion in the Ruhr. The methods that we are trying to use since that is a combination of forming a strategy and making it happen with projects. These are two different things, and different skills and different people. So the strategic people, they have these they can feel, they can smell that things are changing, and they are very good in that. And the others are so brilliant in making things in a good way, in a good manufacturing way, etc. They are experts. And very often these two groups do not accept, the one is not thinking out of the box and the other is a dreamer. So we think it's very interesting to bring these two groups together at the same time and without hierarchy. And the challenge is that we can use these big, abundant lots of land that were located there in the 19th century and where this history and the economy went over, and they are now placed in the cities, and we can do much more than just reuse or clean them. What is the Emscher Landscape Park? It is the idea to use this structural change to create a regional park system, and that the qualifying of the urban landscape is a good thing for the economy's development. You have put one picture of Landscape Park Duisburg Nord on your announcement, so when I saw that in the internet, I said, hey, wow, we are already there. This is the flagship. It's the Landscape Park Duisburg Nord, where a blast furnace is converted to be a public park, and it's done by Peter Lutz. And it was directly starting at the beginning of the International Building Exhibition in the beginning of the 1990s, and it still is one of the flagship. And it does not only offer complete new possibilities to use a former thing, but it's also something to visit at night. And it is Jonathan Park from London who made the light concept for that. And you can stay on these arc ovens and wait at night. A computer brings it down to monochrome light and to colorful light again. So people sometimes stay longer in the night on the hog oven than during the day. The Emscher Landscape Park is a regional park system. Its size is 456 square kilometers, and 20 cities are running this park. It is a regional strategy, and it's a local making. So it's central and decentral at the same time. It is divided in 7 corridors, where the neighbor cities who are laying there deciding what happens in the corridors. So it's a cooperation between neighbor cities in 7 corridors to make it happen. And it's more than 400 single projects. You can see I cannot report all these projects today. It also includes a park infrastructure, and the main thing that we can do and could do and we're still doing is we are converting industry train tracks into bikes and footpaths. And because all these coal mines and steelworks had their own train companies, train tracks, etc., to combine the single location with the greater network of trains, these decentral networks fall out of use when the companies closed. They were forgotten, and we can take one after the other. Last Friday, we opened the last one with 2 ministers of the government who want to say we continue with this thing. And it includes the new Emscher Valley, which is the restoration of the river Emscher through all that time. The Emscher Landscape Park is there in the center. It's in a row of a lot of things going in the same direction. So we have a longer tradition that goes back to 1912, when Robert Schmidt the first time announced a national park that should be just in the center of the industrial district. So it took a while that we could take this idea again, and we're continuing up till today. So the Emscher Landscape Park is one of our strategies on the road to green infrastructures. In 1992, we started with an investment program, and it was called Nature for the People, and it's an investment program to support the investments of the Emscher Landscape Park. And we really mean that. We're doing it for the people of all ages, under all conditions. And we're using the industrial infrastructures for all kind of leisure, all kind of sports, all kind of communication, and all kind of family development as well. We're giving out bikes to access this urban landscape, and as you can see, sometimes big groups are coming and want to use that, and if it's that way that we cross so many roads perhaps, then we even get the police to organize that. And you can see that this neighbor is quite astonished what happens along this train track. We also have these stupid things, but if people like it, we'll offer it. We also have these ladies with the sticks putting into, and we have all kind of bridges constructed over the last 25 years because connecting the urban landscape is one of our top items. People want to get informed, they want to know everything, so we have to have visitor centers, explanations, etc. And we also have to serve coffees, drinks, etc., so that people are just not only astonished but are using the things, and they're doing it in all ages and in all conditions. We have these professionals, these are forest officers who are so proud. They have changed a former abundant site to be an urban wilderness forest, and they invite professors for urban nature to find out if these species are rare, etc. This is a former Scottish environmental minister who wants to know all the details about contamination of soils and what we have done there. And other people are coming in groups saying, what is the benefit of a new park in a former steel site? If we've done these things, then it's very clear the benefit, people love it directly, etc. So then there is a great attraction to come here. And this is also internationally the way. This is a group of mayors surrounded of Paris who came to the Ruhr and saying, how do you make this cooperation between several mayors? And what brings them together that they continue to do so over a lot of years? Whenever we open something like that, we have the media with us, and we have also the possibilities to entertain the people, and then people are coming. And the media then wants to know, how do you feel, what is the reason, why do you come, etc. We're not only doing it with cameras, we're also making surveys about what is going on, and we have made a comparing survey in the last years about the image, and the thing is that the people who are living there, who are using all these infrastructures, immediately vote for a better quality. So the change of qualities changes the image. And I guess most of you know about how difficult it is to move an old image, only millimeters. It takes very long. So I've been invited to speak about Emscher Landscape Park. I thought I cannot come to a heritage conference without talking about the Industrial Heritage Trail. So I'm doing so. This is a selfie. And if you look into this brochure, and it is the British-English brochure, then it's the pictures that the marketing people of the Ruhr choose for international attractivity. And if you see that, they choose all the motifs, all the pictures in the context of industrial landscape and of industrial heritage. And they said that's the USP, that's the unique selling proposition for the Ruhr, because here we have done so many single things that this is really attractive to attract tourists and attractive to professionals. So I will continue to tell you more, but if I don't, come to the Ruhr and you can see more about that. What is that? The route of industrial heritage, the Heritage Trail. It is a website. I've brought up these little brochures. They're laying outside, so everything what I'm telling now is better and more detailed in that brochure. And there's also another small brochure about the Emscher Landscape Park. It's also bilingual, so German and English, so I think you can use it. The trail, the Route of Industrial Heritage, was founded in 1999 at the end of the International Building Exhibition, and it's a 400-kilometer round course. It is an assembly of 25 important anchors, 17 panoramas, 13 typical housing settlements, 22 theme trails, a posted car route, and a multimedia info system. what you see here is the development of visitors from 1998 until 2014. And this is in millions. This means we have nearly 6 million visitors on the route of industrial heritage per year. We have 5 million inhabitants. Yeah? This means on one side we have these tourists who are coming and traveling on that. On the other side is we have all these schools. All our kids are traveling on the route of industrial heritage. All teachers carry the school groups and going on that. So the Ruhr is studying, our kids are studying our own roots, our own history. And that's a great, great factor for the acceptance of industrial heritage in the Ruhr. Now it is our route of industrial heritage. And if you clap on this thing, you can get little stems, a very, very simple thing. And children asking, we have 5 stems, we have to get the other 5, at the end we have to have the 20s. So sometimes it's low tech that works quite well. We are reprinting it every year, so it's not the old brochure. The peak there is the capital of culture, because in 2010 the Ruhr became European capital of culture because of our handling of the industrial heritage. Well, the costs, I was asked to speak about also about the economic background of these things. We invested 7 million for this touristic infrastructure. I mentioned the visitor amounts, and we're spending 1 million per year for the networking, and we're spending 2.5 million per year for maintaining these locations, these sites, these things, etc. And we're getting subsidies for things like that. The 25 anchor points are quite different things. We offer 3 visitor centers. We have 4 of our anchors in the European route of industrial heritage. We are visiting 13 housing areas, the 17 panoramas, as well as the system of guiding the cars. If you come into the Ruhr area at the beginning on the highway, you find this post saying this is industry, culture, and landscape. That's the Ruhr. When we started, we went to the Federal Highway Office and we asked them, why don't we have any brown culture sign? And they said, sorry, you don't have culture. So we were thinking about that very strong, and then we came back and said, listen, we have industrial heritage, what we call Industriekultur. Yeah? And so the Federal Highway Agency accepted that. So if you enter to the Ruhr, you will find this. If you pass through, you find all these. So all the anchors are announced on the highways. So now we have a lot of brown signs along. And you can go on this system without a map because it guides you through the cities so that you come to the end. We have information slabs. We have a lot of brochures. We have a lot of single team routes where you can get all the information. And we have an extra shift, a long night of industrial heritage once a year, where at all the anchors, people are coming together at the same time. We are connecting the industrial heritage by bicycles with several different roads, and we are continuing to develop this as well. All these are posted, so again, you can drive on these systems without a map, but a map is better if you want to know what's right and left from you. It's around about 700 kilometers, and a lot on these older tracks and bridges, and we also have these higher systems. The current thing is the RS1, the highway for bicycles. You know Germany and the German Autobahn, yeah? Free ride, no speed limit. That's something very, very crazy in Germany. So we have now decided we want to have a German standard for a bike highway, and it is, we have been the first, so it's named after the first, so it's RS1, Radschnellweg 1, and we try to make it. And last Friday we had these 2 ministers in opening one of the sections because it was the first thing of RS1. I show you 2 examples at the end of converting a site. One is the Zollverein, which was planned to demolish as a lot of others before, and it's now the World Heritage Site. We've installed in a former coal washing tower a new Ruhr museum, and it is quite an interesting thing. It's a Dutch architect, Rem Koolhaas, who made it, and he brings up the people to the top, and you go through the machine like the coal before was going through. And maybe the orange is because from where he was coming from. And the installation is the exposed things are installed in the machine. And it's a very fascinating dialogue between the things that are exposed and the historic machine itself. I've never seen Romans being exposed so exotic like in this coal washing tower. We have, again, the visitor center. We have all these informations now. You have several editors who want to have a book about heritage as well in their catalog. So it's no problem anymore to get any information about the Ruhr and the Ruhr's work and the Ruhr past. And we also offer now English tour guides and also Dutch ones. There are also books for kids now. Die Sendung mit der Maus, the TV program with the mouse, is a pedagogic thing which the whole nation agrees with. So the mouse also is already at the Ruhr, and even the Automotor Club announces the Ruhr to be quite creative. The whole area is a World Heritage listed monument because so different aspects of coal production are assembled and not disturbed in any way. When it was closed in 1986, it was put under protection immediately, and from then on it was very, very carefully handled. The train tracks are used now to be the parkways in Zollverein, and we have had questions, and I just select one example of complicated questions that have been confronted. The cokery was closed, and we were asking in competition with architects, what shall we do? How can we use a platform of 900-meter concrete in front of 300 ovens? We're not experienced with things like that. Yeah? And we were not experienced in handling the dimension. And it was Spears and Mayer from London who said, why not handling that like we're using it with castles? And why not using the mirror in front of a castle with this reflection to give a new understanding to that? Again, a very low-tech solution. It's only a belt of steel once around and just letting water in. And immediately we have a fantastic cultural landscape, and people who are seeing that are saying, wow, that's interesting. You can climb up, you can look on the whole thing. The whole thing is open now. It's an open park. So artists are coming in, producing art. You can go there with your lover, having romantic moments in front of this water basin. You can come there with your kids in winter because we are freezing it. It's starting 2 weeks, in 2 weeks, so if you want to come. It starts around about Christmas. And artists themselves identify the poetic of the room. Spears and Mayer not only ask us to put water in, but they also said put a warm monochrome red light to the ovens and blue light, cold blue light to the chemical factory, which is always combined with a coke plant. And so we did. This is one of my most beloved pictures because it's an ordinary people, man, woman, who's making a picture by himself. So you have people arriving at main station in Essen asking, where is that water basin? I have seen that in a magazine in Tokyo, in New York, or in TV on a book, and I want to make this picture by myself. We also have these professionals, these high professionals coming to the Ruhr. We had these environmental European ministers, and we also had the royal family on the Ruhr. And when Prince Philip came over and he was interested in architecture, you know about that, the best thing what the mayor of the city could give him was this bid book for the capital of culture. And we came to be capital of culture, so it was no fiction. Other royalties are coming also. There are some other countries. And so when the Dutch queen said hello, goodbye, she made a professional travel to Germany. She said, I'll stop to the Ruhr. And the lady with the red hair is the running governor of the state of North Rhine-Westphalia. And she got all these explanations about the Ruhr Museum, etc. And she wanted to have a conference. So I had the order to organize and to moderate a conference where the royal family just, by the way, moved in at 12 o'clock and moved out at 1 o'clock, 48 people with all these things. And they wanted to have a site where the coming king, which is ruling now, could give a speak about the water, could give a speak about the sustainable perspectives of water. We have this visitor center, as I mentioned already, and we had, during the Capital of Culture, 2.2 million visitors, and we have now 1.5 in the normal years. So again, about the investments or about the facts and figures. Yes, we had big investments on Zollverein. We have created jobs during these investments. We created new jobs on the site. We have these visitors who are spending money. We are having round about 1,500 jobs in the surroundings. And we get, and the city of Essen gets tax money for the money that is spent over there. And we have great positive effect in the surrounding neighborhoods. I jumped through the last example because it just is an example how to change a building. This is in the 1950s. This is at the end of the 1990s, and this is 2002. The same part of the building. It's a coal mine converted by a private company to be a business building. It's a housing company, and they wanted to use a coal mine for their headquarters. So they put walls out, they put glass in, and divided all the workshops with glass walls. And I can tell you this steering committee, these CEOs are very proud to work now in a former coal mine. They also installed quite things. And if we do things like that, we can convert the building at the same time, and we convert the landscape besides. So business development and landscape development goes together as two twins of the same thing, and our kids are using these infrastructures directly. We are also in the focus of professionals, and we're very much in the moment in the focus of Chinese professionals from the north of China, where a lot of cities are in front of conversion, in front of the end of their coal mining depending industries. So the professionals from China are now very fine studying what we are doing. The CEO of this business company wanted to give a big mark for the capital of culture. So he said, for 2010, I put extra floors on top, and I invite an artist to do something. And it's Mr. Lüpertz who got that job. And in 2011, it was a year later of the capital of culture, this Hercules was erected. Maybe you don't like it. Maybe you are fascinated. Definitely, this tower now is in the heart of the people. By the way, it is more accessible. The tower itself, the machine now is accessible because a museum is put in top. And what people love very much is that if you go on the top and you look around, you see the change of your landscape, and you see and get impressions of what's going on. Thank you for your extension.